Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Brilliance Business Show, conversations with leading experts in business, and I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. Today, I have a wonderful guest, Caroline Purvey. Caroline is a freedom fighter, inspirational leader, and visionary. Our topic today is empowering individuals to find freedom from unnecessary suffering. So a really interesting topic today. Caroline, welcome to the Brilliance Business Show.
Thank you, Mark, and I am so delighted that you've invited me to join you this morning.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you today, Caroline. Before I get started, I just need to make a legal disclaimer that Caroline is not offering legal advice or legal assistance. So let's get started with the show. Caroline, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yes, absolutely. My pleasure, Mark. So, as Mark said, I'm Caroline Purvey. Now, I live in Dover, Kent, in the UK, right on the coastline, opposite France. I'm married with 3 children, and I have 6 grandchildren. This year, 2020, I became an author, not just once, but 3 times.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Very exciting indeed, and a little more about that later. I am a speaker, as Mark said, inspirational leader, and I'm proud to be one of the top 10 of 100 women to watch in well-being. As a visionary, I'm passionate about educating and empowering people with a life tool to transform their lives by taking back control of their own well-being. And with my 5-step program, a physical program that guides releasing, that heals from mind and body, of symptoms from stress and trauma, where medication and talking has often failed. It comes from a practice I learned back in 2011 in South Africa. And there I became a woman with a vision and mission. Being a lone voice in the UK, my passion never waned. And as my experience with the work increased, I discovered just how powerful the human body is and realised how I was learning far more from experience than I was ever taught. I evolved the work to create, along with my son Daniel, a 5-step program we call the Total Release Experience, which is now a global service. So we inspire and motivate and empower those who want to learn how easy it is to heal from their past and build resilience. The work is now adopted by Kent Fire and Rescue, police, prison, communities, organisations, especially wonderful for business organisations and schools. So one of the hardest questions, is what do I call myself? And I guess a freedom fighter is exactly that, sending out a powerful message that there is a way for everyone to find freedom from unnecessary suffering.
That's absolutely amazing, Caroline. And at the moment, there is a lot of unnecessary suffering going on in the world. And I think you answered my next question briefly, but I would just like to go into a little more detail. You mentioned police, etc., but who are your customers? Who are your clients?
Well, that is a good question, Mark. Life is a challenge for everyone. And at some stage in life, we all have to deal with stress, overwhelm and trauma. It goes right back to birth. And it's part of our life journey. But whilst we work with a whole range of sectors in society, locally, nationally and globally, my focus now is to reach out to schools, universities, the service sector, and especially the women of the world. Daniel focuses on the men and the role of men in society, particularly as a father. So many women have suffered from childhood experiences, from abuse to abandonment to low self-esteem. Women endure the stress of overwhelm and trauma, be that from miscarriage, as a carer, either for their children, partner or parents, and the impact of relationship breakups, as well as in the workplace, dealing with their role. And women that often have to endure some of those experiences of life that I have just mentioned, also have powerful jobs in industry. And these experiences that they have throughout their life have impacted their physical, mental and emotional health, as it does for all of us. Because the tension gets stored in our body's muscle memory and it never really leaves. So as a consequence, they never shine as the person they're meant to be. They, just like men, carry their childhood trauma through their adult life. Everyone deserves to live a life to the fullest without carrying around the past. We don't just teach how to release, but how to move forward and be the best that you can be.
It's really important work what you're doing, Caroline, and I'm really happy to hear that you're taking this into schools. I myself speak in schools on drug awareness, bullying and mental health, and I know the impact that you can really have in schools. Also, it's great to hear you're working with Daniel in this opportunity as well to help people's mental health and well-being. It's just such important work that you're doing. I would like to know, do you recall a specific aha moment that led to the launch of your business?
Oh, yes. That is very clear in my mind, Mark, because it was in South Africa in 2011 where I'm a great believer in synchronicity, and I can't tell all that story now, but I was in South Africa with 99 other people from around the world, and it discovered me. I didn't look for this work, but I was in South Africa doing a training of something I had never heard of. And at the end of that training, I thought, my goodness, 99 other countries represented here, and I'm the only one from the UK. I'm going back to make this happen. And that, at the end of that 3-day training, that was my aha moment. I left that country with a vision and a mission, and I've been on it for over 8 years.
That is a really, really beautiful story, Caroline, and it shows that you're following your passion and purpose with your vision and mission. To be doing it this long, you must really, really get so much satisfaction from what you're doing. I also forgot to mention as well what I like. Dan is focusing on the gentleman, because there are a lot of men out there with unnecessary suffering, and they may not know how to voice it. They may be a little bit embarrassed, and it's really, really great that you're out there supporting these individuals that need it. I would like to know what really motivates you to jump out of bed every single morning.
That isn't a difficult question at all. And it's been my motivation every morning for over 8.5 years. How many lives can I impact today? And to give you an example, we have a doctor that supports our work, and she recommends it to all her patients, having discovered it for her own well-being. And very recently, she sent a message, another stunning success story from a much deserving patient of mine. Trauma upon trauma had crushed her for years, and we couldn't find a way to free her from it. Such pain that tablets and counselling hasn't helped. From somewhere, she found the courage to try the total release experience. And wow, it truly has been her release from all this torture. And to hear the joy and lightness in her voice was a complete and utter pleasure. I wish as a GP I could prescribe this. I also wish I could give her a hug. And I have so many of those stories, and that is what gets me out of bed every day, Mark.
And that's a great reason to get up every morning, knowing that you're really impacting lives, Caroline. And we will get on to some great success stories later in our conversation. I would like to know what sets your business apart and what unique need are you filling for your clients?
Well, we've created and share a program that is unique in as much it requires no talking. Working with the service sector, nobody wants to talk. No fireman or policeman or military personnel or business boss is going to put their hands up and say, you know, I've got problems. So with this program, no talking, no medication, no intervention. It is a complete and unique self-help empowering program that allows those that engage with it to take control of their own well-being. Of course, we follow through with full support. As they follow through with the program, they very quickly begin to shine and find their inner greatness. And no matter how good one feels, there's so much more to discover.
That's very, very true. No matter how good you feel inside, there is always room for improvement. Why is your service especially important in today's modern world?
Well, I have to say that there's a lot of stress, overwhelm and trauma that is creating suffering for people and has done for years. And before the pandemic, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the UK, it was certainly the topic of the day, how much anxiety there was and mental health issues. The pandemic, for people that perhaps felt they were in control of their life, has exacerbated stress and anxiety to new levels, not just here in the UK, but globally. And the problem is those who are in the field of supporting others, from therapists to hospital staff, the doctors and nurses, the emergency service, they're all impacted around the world. Their own levels of stress have gone through the roof. And if people are suffering, do not have the time or money, what are they left with? My work over 8 years is now oven ready. And we have a campaign to inspire and motivate 40,000 people to stop their unnecessary suffering. And they can stop their unnecessary suffering as a large portion of our clients do. Unnecessary back pain, IBS, depression, anxiety, that's what I call unnecessary suffering. And for those in the workplace, mental health, working from home is a challenge. And this is the greatest gift anyone leading organisations can offer to their staff. And it's done in their own home, in their own time. And that makes it totally unique and special.
Could you share a little bit more detail on the kinds of service and products you offer?
Well, lockdown has been a great pivotal point for us because we've created, and I never thought it was possible because I took my work around the country, running workshops, working with people on a one-to-one. But now that education has been turned into an innovative online program that can be accessed globally. At home, in your own time, and operational from laptop, iPad or phone. We give full education through video presentations and guided sessions with audios. A great support service is included, which, if needed, we're always there. And if records are maintained, that we give that opportunity in the short 4-week course of 1 to 2 hours a week max are maintained, then a full progress report is generated. And the great thing about the progress report is organisations that are leading and supporting their employees, such as those I've already mentioned, a report is generated for the leaders so they know, of course anonymised, but they know the progress all their staff personnel are making in their well-being.
It really, really is great stuff, because when you have all those people functioning better, living a better way of life, they will be performing so much better and together at work as well. Now, Caroline, I know you have all sorts of client success stories. Can you just pick one that really stands out to you?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are so many. I just want to say that one that stands out for me was from a man in prison. Now, we were going into prison before lockdown for well over 2 years. And one young man stands out, and his story is in my book, Feel It to Heal It. And just to say that when we first met this man, only a young man in his 30s, and let me just say, right from the start, I always said, get me into prison, it's full of angry children. And when I went into prison and met this young man, he was drugged, completely drugged. But he did a session in the small group we were running, and he started crying. And when he sat up after the session, I sat with him. And he said, I've got nothing to live for. He said, I lost my parents when I was a child. My future was completely changed when my aunt and uncle put me into care. And he got in with the wrong company at 15. And there started his juvenile detention. And his life followed one tragedy after another. And he said, I've got nothing to live for. I've only got my sister out there. And I said to him, then you have something to live for. You have a sister. And that man just continued to engage with the practice. Of course, it's self-discipline. He didn't need us. He could do it in his own cell as he did, because it is about empowering to take on a life tool and a tool for life. And the biggest thing was that he freed himself from the drugs, because so often drugs, alcohol, overeating, OCD behaviour, whatever that is, comes as a soother, as something to block what is going on in the body that we often don't understand. And from childhood, it gets stuck, because childhood is when we freeze from the trauma. But in adult life, it comes flooding back. And Marcus, who you will read about in the book, was just an incredible example of success, because when he came out of prison, he actually got in touch and said, I've been out of prison the longest I have ever been. And that, to me, is just wonderful.
That is a beautiful success story, Caroline. We have so many similarities, very, very different what we do, but I was actually booked for the first time by Her Majesty's Prison this year to go and speak. So I was very, very excited. It actually got cancelled due to the pandemic. I was excited that I was going to go in. I've spoken in schools before, and I was so looking forward to going and giving value to people that really need it, because you talk about addiction, drugs. I was also a drug addict, and that's what I go in prison, in schools to talk about. So I just know the impact that you're having, and it's really coming from a great place of service. I really, really admire your work. Also, you mentioned your book. Can you tell our listeners the name of your book?
Yes, when you ask what kind of service or products we've got, I've two products, if I can be cheeky and mention them both. One, of course, let's talk about the book. Somebody said to me years ago, gosh, your work is amazing, you must write a book. I've always wanted to write a book. But when we went into the pandemic, that was the time it felt totally right for me to start. And I started it and finished it. And it's called Feel It to Heal It. And it's empowering stories, sharing my journey and many stories of those that I've worked with and where we are with this program. What does it mean? Why is it important to us? Why should we engage with it? What are the alternatives? And what happens if we don't? Because what I teach is not a therapy. It's not anything that we put into you. A lot of practices out there work from the outside in. How can I break into your inside with counselling? How can I break in to heal your inside with medication, just like the doctor shared earlier? You can't. It helps. It might smooth off some of that tension, but we work from the inside out. And this book shares exactly what it is we do and why it's so important. And I was especially proud because coming from nowhere on a vision and a mission all those years ago, I was introduced to Professor Gordon Turnbull, who is a world-leading trauma clinical psychologist. And to say that my proudest moment was when he emailed me and said, yes, I would love to write the foreword of your book. And so he does.
That is beautiful, Caroline. I would urge our listeners to go out and grab a copy of your book, Feel It to Heal It. Am I correct there, Caroline?
Absolutely.
And is it available on Amazon?
It is available on Amazon.
Perfect. How do clients typically hear about you, and are there certain life moments that usually lead to them seeking you out?
Well, people find us through word of mouth, through recommendations. We have nutritionists, therapists, doctors, psychologists, and individuals that have healed from their own trauma and their own stress that share with others. And of course, through the website, typically. But, people have to be ready. I'm sure we've all been told about things, but we don't know that we need it until we get to that point that we need it. And then the listening starts.
Yes, I agree with that totally, Caroline. Once you admit to yourself you need support, you need guidance, then you will find a way. It's all about knowing yourself first and then seeking out that guidance. I find your work fascinating. Is there anything we did not cover that you would like to share?
Well, just that there are many benefits that come from our program. Better sleep, pain-free, peace, happiness like never experienced before, energy, motivation, the end of addictions, tension leaves the body, and so much more. And in a business environment, as with all the service sector, being motivated and being on high-end focus is not just good for the individual, but great for the organisation. So many leave their work because they cannot cope. And they cannot cope because of what they store in their body. And this is all to do with a muscle in the body, which you can read about in the book. But what happens if we don't? Anxiety, and depression just get worse. We spiral downwards. The signs that our body's knocking on the door saying, can you release me? Mood swings, IBS, the gut problems, headaches, migraine, and at worse, and this is important, stroke, heart attack, cancer, and suicide. Nobody wants to take their own life. It's not an illness. When we talk about stress and stress buckets, those that get to that point in life, their stress bucket is so full, they've got no release. Now, I could talk all day on this, but that when we talk about ending unnecessary suffering, we all we all have the silver bullet. You all have the power. And it takes a first step to just find out more. So let me assure all of you who might be listening, if you think you've tried everything, take heart and hope, for you have not looked at what you've got inside yourself.
Caroline, I really, really have enjoyed learning about you, your business and the impact you're having in this world. There are going to be lots of people out there with unnecessary suffering at the moment. And I would go as far as say, even if you haven't tried everything, but you need support, get in touch with Caroline Purvey. Caroline, my next and last question, how can our listeners connect with you? What's the best way for them to reach you?
I guess the best way is to go to our website, www.treuk.com. And there you can read more stories, you can find information, you can read about our courses. We have different courses structured for different levels, contact form, so you can email us from there, and of course give us a call if you wish, or book a call through the email.
That's perfect, Caroline, and I will make sure that that link is easy for people to access as well. Thank you so much for being on the Brilliance Business Show today.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to help share my message.
It's been my pleasure, Caroline. You have been listening to the Brilliance Business Show, conversations with leading experts in business.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.